I want to talk a little bit more about this race, but I also want to give some insight. Gromer and Jason are veteran political reporters here in the state of Texas, right. Two of the most respected and admired, I would say, across the state, maybe across the country as well. They have done so much preparation for this. So much has gone into making sure that this is a well-produced debate behind the scenes, but also a very fair debate. And I know that they have really poured their heart and soul into what's going to happen tonight. So sending them good vibes. They don't need good luck, but I'm still sending it to them. All right, I want to just talk a little bit about why this race matters, the power of a U.S. senator. But there may be some folks out there who are joining us who still don't really understand exactly the difference between what does U.S. Senate mean, what does the U.S. House of Representatives mean. So we've built a graphic that we're going to go through with you here just to give you some background. I know there's a lot of politicos who are watching and some people who are kind of nerdy like me who know a lot of these things, but there may be some folks who are joining us on these streams who are not quite familiar. So let's educate you a little bit. The U.S. Senate is considered the upper chamber. There are 100 members, 2 from each state in the U.S. They are elected every 6 years. So every 2 years, that means that a third of the body is elected. A senator has to be 30 years old, has to be a U.S. citizen for 9 years. They represent the entire state, so that's key. That is key to this race. That means that whoever wins this race represents the entire state of Texas. And when it comes to legislating, the Senate sort of follows more tradition and precedent. And this is also key because there are smaller numbers in the U.S. Senate. All of the members really have an opportunity to influence legislation. Now let's compare that to the U.S. House of Representatives. The U.S. House of Representatives has 435 total members. The entire membership is elected every 2 years. What does that mean? You have a new, full U.S. House every time that a new session of Congress begins. A member of the House has to be 25 years old, a U.S. citizen for 7 years. Key difference, they represent districts, and those are drawn based on population. The body, sort of as a whole, adopts new rules each new session, and because of the size of the House, they really have to limit their debate. You could just imagine if they allowed all 435 members to weigh in on everything on the floor, nothing would, well, some would say nothing gets done anyway. But they do have to limit debate. So it's a little bit harder to influence bills in the House versus in the Senate. So let's talk about the power of a U.S. Senate seat. Bud, we saw this happen with Ted Cruz before. It's really a launching pad to more powerful position, that being a run for the president. We see a lot of times that comes from the U.S. Senate.
And I think he had planned all along to run for president. When he won the Senate seat, he was already planning to run for president. But I think one of the important points about his power in the Senate is that he's the ranking Republican on the Committee for Commerce, Science, and Transportation. If Republicans gain control of the Senate, he will probably be the chairman of that committee, which gives him even more power over American business, over the science and NASA, over transportation, rail, airport. So much of the country would be under Ted Cruz's control as chairman of that committee. All the senators work so tightly, and they all I won't say they all get along, but they all know each other really personally, and they all get really involved in legislation. You go over to the other chamber, 435 people. That's just like a big county courthouse there, where there's all these people that have all these kinds of opinions.
And they work a lot by caucuses, of around interest, or black representatives, or groups around special interest or demographics, and they get really good at creating alliances and building support in a way that the Senate doesn't really have to do that. But representatives have to know how, well, at one time they needed to know how to make compromises and how to make alliances, and you don't see that so much now, but it happens a lot more in the House of Representatives than it does in the Senate, mostly because of the size.
Sure.
And you see the House is literally representative of America. You have the X number of representatives for every state, while in the Senate you have 2 senators for everywhere. I was on vacation in Vermont recently, and I looked around and said, "This place has 2 senators." It's like
I know it's very different when you consider just how many people the senator from the state of Texas is responsible for versus the senator from Vermont.
Right.
Yeah.